Okay, for this next video, I'm going to be showing everyone how to look at your variable types and to change the variable types and clean up your data a little bit. For your information, this is going to be a key part of the very first assignment that we have, the lab, which is worth 10% of your grade. So we're beginning to get a little bit more into the thick of it, and I recommend watching these videos as a way to help you complete your assignments. So this should look familiar to you by now. This is us reading in the baby names database. There will be different data sets throughout the semester, so don't worry, we won't be talking about baby names the entire time. But as we've done a couple other times, I'm going to select this, hit the button, and wait for this to come up. It opened up in the variable view, but in the data view, you can see we're looking at the same thing. As you may recall, this is the name of every single baby that was born in the United States between 1986 and 2014 by gender, and then the number of babies that were born with that name, with that gender, and then the proportion of babies born with that name by year and by gender. So what we're looking at right here is just some tabular data, and this has 5 variables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it has tens of thousands of cases that go all the way down. And for the most part, everything looks pretty good. These years, they look like years, and sex looks like F, or probably there's some M in there. The names look like names. Everything looks like it's in good shape. But as you're going to find out when you do analyses like this, you want to double check to make sure that your data are all the type and the measurement level that you're interested in. So the way you do that is you look at this variable view, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on here. And with these 5 variables, there's actually a couple of things that we want to correct. First and foremost, the variable for year is listed as numeric, which is correct. But if you look over here, it's listed as a scale variable. And a scale variable is basically one where everything has to be in order and where it can be calculated on an entire numeric distribution. And yes, it is true, if you subtract 1996 from 1997, you'll get 1. You can do math with dates. But for the sake of this exercise, what we're really looking for is we want these to be categorical variables. We want to know what's the difference between people who were born in 1986 and 1987, rather than the actual mathematical difference between those two. So right here, the measurement level isn't quite right. We're going to want to set that to nominal, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. The other thing I've noticed is that the proportion, which is the proportion of babies born as a specific biological sex in a particular year, is listed as a string variable. And that is a consequence of the way that we read the data into SPSS, and we can fix that when we read it in the future. But for now, we have this string variable which really can't be calculated, and we can't do any sort of aggregations or any sort of math on a string variable. A string variable is just a bunch of characters. So to me, that's a problem as well. And so we're going to go ahead and fix these two challenges. So as you know, one of the large parts of being successful in this class is the notion of reproducibility. And you can change it right here in SPSS, but if you do that, I could switch these. If you do that, you're not leaving behind that trail that allows you to reproduce your analysis later. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the data menu, and then we're going to go to define variable properties, which is right here. And this is kind of your shopping mall for all of your different data transformations that you want to do for variables. And so as I just showed you, you can pick as many variables as you want to look at, but the 2 that we're really interested in are going to be the year and the proportion. So we're going to move those over here. You're going to get really familiar with the way that SPSS works. You put stuff over to the other window using these arrows, then we're going to say continue. And then what we get is we get this dialog box, and there are quite a few options here. So the first thing that we're going to do is with year, we want to change this not from being a scale variable that you can calculate on, but as an ordinal variable, or excuse me, a nominal variable. So that it's basically 1986 is a category, 1987 is a category, 1988 is a category, and so on. And it looks like we're pretty much able to do that without any problem. For proportion, what we're going to do is we are going to, by the way, you can always click on this suggest button and it tells you, it says a nominal level is one where the variable values do not have a natural ranking. For example, names of countries. That is not exactly what we're going for here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the proportion to be a numeric variable, which is at the top. And we can set the measurement type to a couple of different things, but because SPSS is weird and you're going to find a bunch of these instances, we're going to click on this automatic labels button. And what that's going to do is that's going to label all of the data as having a specific value. And then suddenly we're allowed to set that as a scale. Don't ask me why it's like this. If I had my druthers, I would do it differently, but that's the way it goes. Last but not least, what you'll notice is that all of these variables, these are proportions, sometimes of tens of thousands of millions of babies that were born in a given year. And so right now this is set to have 0 decimals. So these are just all going to cut off at 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set those decimals to be, say, 6. Doesn't really matter, but we'll go with 6. And so you can see we've made all of those changes in here. Another thing you can do is you can do labels, which is kind of nice. So you can do, we'll call this proportion of, names per year. It's actually per gender year. And so we've made all these changes. We corrected the measurement level on year, and then we corrected the type, the measurement level, the name, or the label rather, as well as the decimals on proportion. So once we feel good about all of that, you heard it right here first, you're going to hit the paste button, and that is going to just put all of this information into your syntax. So you can kind of read through and it should make some intuitive sense, but what this is going to do is this is going to make all those changes for us. So we highlight it, you hit the run selection, and then when you go back here to your data set, you will see that year is now numeric and that the proportion is numeric, that it has 6 decimal places. And when you go to the data view, this is what your data looks like. So in those simple strokes, we were able to mop up the data and get it into a place where we can now do some analyses.